All right, so she's ramping up and going live. Everything looks like all systems are a go. Here we are. So kick out the notification just in a second here. So let me just make sure everything is muted on my end. Mute. Let me turn my phone down for when I tap into that. And let me get back over to Zoom on my main screen.
So that live chat will come up on the YouTube.
Yeah, we should get notification here in a little bit. So who knows? Stuff's always messing with us. Technology being a little bit slow. So, but we'll give guys a moment to show up. So welcome everybody. It is Thursday, August 26th already. My name is Matt. I'm one of the instructors with Prepared Patriot. We are a training group here in North Carolina. We've got, depending on likely orientation on your screen, the bald-headed fella in the bottom is Jerry Googe, affectionately known as the Bald Eagle. And we also have John Kranz on board tonight. So we appreciate his attendance tonight. John is, we know him mainly through Tactical Response, a place we like to train. I'm pretty sure John has shot me up pretty good in force on force training. And so I figured if he shot me before, we could at least have him on. So John's got a great with which he's done so for over 10 years. So we'll get into that. And I'm getting a message about my internet being unstable. Of course.
Unstable. Well,
so you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Okay.
Max Lozanda already commented that you assassinated him. In force on force.
Max is a big target. Max is a big target.
Yeah. So
well,
I'm just gonna hop on so I can see the chat, and then we'll get into more about John. Just a second, guys. Yeah. So there's my volume again. Always messing up. So so guys, if you're with us, I'm going to be busy kind of talking and stuff. So if you guys can share things out when you get a chance. John's a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, he's been serving as a paramedic for a while. He's got he is a partner in a training group there in, let's see, you're from Michigan, correct? Michigan. So there's a training group up in Michigan called Asset Protection and Recovery Services. And we'll dig into that history. And he also has a nonprofit side to the training company. So we'll talk about that and what the purpose beyond that is. But from my knowledge, John started, as you said, 2001 as a firefighter. Was that your
yeah, correct. It was summer of 2001. A buddy of mine had joined the fire department, and I was like, well, how did you get involved in that? And he said, just go take a written test and you do an oral interview. You have a physical agility test. It's a paid on call department. We were running about 1,000 calls a year at that time out of 3 stations. I think they're now up to almost 2,500 calls. So I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, that sounds cool. So did all the testing. Did the agility test, obviously the written exam, oral interview, and then the physical agility test. Started that, and you go through a year's worth of probation, which is a bunch of testing. Go to fire school, which is about a year. And then when you get done with that, you go to medical training, which we started at first responder training. So all in all, my first year, I think I ran like 635 calls in my first year as a paid on call firefighter. I went to first responder school, first responder license. And I always had that feeling because we were a non-transporting agency, that when the paramedics showed up, I always had that helpless feeling, like I need to be doing more. You know, I'm here, it's 5 minutes before they show up, I should be doing something else. So you're limited as a first responder. So I made the decision. I went to EMT school. Shortly after that, got my EMT license. And once you get your EMT license, you still get that feeling. You know, I should be able to start an IV. I should be able to draw some drugs up. I should be able to read a 12 lead and all the rest of that. So ended up going to paramedic school, which was, I believe, about 18 months of schooling. And then after that, for the state of Michigan, you have to do X amount of hours third ride times. So I actually did all my third rides with Lucas County EMS with Toledo Fire. And I told myself, I need to do all my rides with the same crews out of the same station. They run an A, B, and C shift, so that every time I show up to do a third ride, which was 12 hours, but the crews were cool. And if you were cool with them, they'd let you stay, 16, 18, 20, 24 hours. But you got to show up, help them wash the trucks in the morning, check the gear in the morning, make breakfast, bring ice cream, stuff like that. And then you get to know those guys, so that when I showed up every single morning for a third ride, which I think I had to do 900 hours and X amount of skills, right? So I have to do X amount of intubations or X amount of pediatric traumas. You don't always hit those numbers in that 900 hours. So I think I ended up doing about 1,200 hours third ride time on top of going to school, but showing up with the same crew every single shift, they build that trust in you. So I got to do things, if we show up on a trauma and we have to crisis someone and they're like, well, we've never worked with you before and you're actually operating under my medical license, you can't do it. But after you've run 12, 15 traumas with these guys and they build trust in you, they'll let you do whatever. So I found that to be, an awesome training. So once I got done with that, that was about 10 years ago. And we had already started to roll into the training company and things like that. So I took that knowledge, and there's not really money on the road to be made around here. So I started working for another company called, oh man, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's an industrial training company. So I traveled around the state of Michigan teaching for Monroe County Community College, Delta College, Amway, Detroit Edison, out at Fermi, their nuclear power plant, and traveling around the state doing industrial safety, which was like first aid, CPR, stop the bleed, oxygen administration, all kinds of different safety classes like fall protection, spills, hazardous material stuff, bloodborne pathogens, and all that. So after doing it, for about 10 years and then getting the licensing and everything, I took it over to the teaching side, kind of where the more of the money's at, and took off with it from there and been teaching it ever since.
You're talking teaching it not necessarily through your training company, but teaching, like you said, some community colleges and things like that. Are you talking that level of teaching, or are you talking training company teaching?
Both.
Gotcha. So after all these years, man, you still get very much adrenaline pumping, or is there most of the calls?
It takes a lot.
It takes a lot.
It takes a lot.
Gotcha. So, and then in our previous conversations, you've sounds like you've been doing some cool stuff along the way. You said you started at an early age, kind of serving, what'd you call it, Op 4, as in a bad guy for some different military trainings and stuff.
Yeah. So the gentleman that I teach with, who he owns the company, he is 27 years law enforcement, and I think he's right around 35 years military. So he turned 18, joined the Army, did some pretty cool stuff from the get-go, got out, went reserves, got on the police department, state police department, and then he actually went SF, he went to selection. So after he got done with selection and SEER training and all that stuff, and was on the National Guard side of the SF, still full-time law enforcement, they were getting ready to go through, another deployment and things like that. So they started training up for that. And he said, hey, I had just turned 18. This was before I was on the fire department. He was like, do you want to, go up to Fort whatchamacallit and play the bad guy, for a couple days of CQB, close quarter battle training? And I was like, I don't really know what that is, but yeah, let's give it a go. And he goes, well, we're going to be, running sims and doing this and doing that. And you're going to be in a big 4-story concrete building, and a team of guys is going to come in and hunt you down and just roll with it. And you can return fire. And I went, I'm down for that. So myself and 2 other gentlemen went up for Op 4. So we did CQB for those, I think it was 3 or 4 days. And it was awesome. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. And I did fairly well. So, I mean, there was a couple booby traps that I discovered with the swinging doors in a concrete building. If you put a little shell case between the door and the floor and put some shell casings on top, you barely open that door, they fall and they ting super loud through a concrete building. So I kind of had to jump, a few times, and he was like, man, that's a great idea. And so it went very, very well. And then after that, he's like, hey, do you want to do more of this stuff? He's like, we always need, role players and bad guys and, stuff like that. And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. So from there, it was anytime they did like a pre-deployment training, or the SF guys could kind of do their own thing. So their team leaders, would be like, hey, I kind of want to do some off-base training. And as long as they get approved, they can do it. So, I mean, we've done like a 4-day Robin Sage around Monroe County. We've done some different stuff out in Lake Erie with different agencies. We had some pretty large vessels come in before they got deployed to a country overseas to do some Coast Guard work with their guys over there. We trained up with some different agencies around here out in the lake, and a lot of secretive stuff, I guess, without getting into too much. Like, hey, go meet this guy over there and give him this binder, and then go over there and see who shows up to tell you this information. It's like, yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Well, just checking out the live feed. So we got a lot of familiar names tonight. Of course, Weapons Junkie as in Jody's in the house. We got old Max Lozano, our buddy from Pennsylvania, and Jason has checked in. So Max says, what you're saying is you're a professional bad guy. You're not a natural one like Jason.
No, I had to be trained up to be shady.
Nice. So, well, that sounds awesome, and probably one of the reasons why you're such an effective slayer in the shoot house over there in Camden, Tennessee, a tactical response. So,
well, I kind of grew up getting shot at by the best, so you learn a lot. You learn a lot when you're running out those guys, and especially when you're role playing in situations like that, you're not always the bad guy. If they're going to deploy somewhere to train up the guys in that country, you role play as the guys in that country. So cool. They're brushing up on their training, by using you as the person that needs to be trained. So they're adjusting their training techniques and their skills and their curriculum and the things that they want to teach the people over there. And they're teaching them to you first to get the kinks worked out.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. We got Dylan Clifford in the house. He says, I'm on listening to another Michigander. So that's awesome. Dylan is he's kind of working through our curriculum down here. And he showed up big time a couple of weeks ago when we did that medical class for Leo. I did an awesome job role playing. So we got Clave checking in. Clave's in the house. And so this is preaching to the choir for a lot of the folks that are on our live stream tonight. But if you ever have the chance to do some force on force training, which Prepared Patriot is in the works to do so. It's just whenever the simunition gods shine in our favor and send the equipment so we can start testing and working. So we have passed our safety certification and dropped a bunch of money on marking cartridges and conversion kits and things like that. And we'll be designing curriculum. But without a shadow of a doubt, the best training that probably most of us on this chat have been to would be the fight at Tactical Response. So just a shout out to James Yeager and his crew and what they're doing over there. It's just an exceptional experience. So
well, you asked me earlier if anything gets my adrenaline going, and that class did it.
Oh, yeah.
Class definitely did it.
Sure does. It's interesting to experience the fatigue after that class. You know what I mean?
You're running a 5-minute scenario, and you get out. Depending on the class size, you got a half an hour, 45 minutes to rest. So it's not that physical. I got home after that class, and I was like, I'm smoked.
Yeah,
like I'm exhausted.
Jason said, Kranz isn't a slayer in the shoot house. He's good at hitting nipples.
One.
You might have to elaborate on that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a good story there somewhere.
Listen, it was pointing at me, and I don't like being pointed at.
Male or female?
That would have been a female.
Gotcha.
I had my life threatened after that one.
Gotcha.
So just in a joking way.
Nice. We got Andrew from Combat Art Training checking in. About time showed up, brother. And so we had him featured probably 2 weeks ago, and he had a great time. We'll definitely have Andrew back. So guys, if you have any questions for John, send them, put them in the chat, and we'll go through. Like I said, if you missed the beginning intro, John's got a lot of experience. He's been a paramedic for over 10 years. He talked about his march through the profession from firefighter to EMT to paramedic. And we just kind of got through some of his cool alternate experiences that he's been doing with some governmental agencies and things of that nature. So wealth of knowledge, throw some questions down, and we'll see if we can't get them interested. So now that we're talking about, we've kind of been talking about tactical response. Tell us how you first got hooked up with him.
Oh, so yeah, a friend of mine who is a gear guy and not so into training was telling me something about this YouTube channel. I think he sent me something because it was 4 or 5 years ago now. And so I was like, okay. So I started watching a couple of videos on YouTube and then watching a few more. Then the live stream started. So I started watching the live streams. And I'm like, man, I got to get down there. I want to go down there, take this class. It's not like anything I've done before as far as fighting from concealment and street clothes. I'd always run stuff from like a battle belt, or running rifles and things like that. So never really anything from concealment. So I went down and took fighting pistol. It was a weekend trip. I think 4 of us went down from Michigan. And so we took fighting pistol, and it was fantastic. I was like, yep, like this is completely different. I'm completely on board with this. I can take some of this information and incorporate it with stuff that I already knew. Learned a lot. Obviously you put your equipment to a whole nother level. So we got done with that one, and I'm like, we got to go back. The minute I got home, I'm like, I want to go back. So we went down and took advanced fighting pistol and the fight. And I'm like, yep, like this is definitely where it's at. So then we went down and took backup gun and role played the fight. And then we went back down and role played the fight again and took advanced fighting rifle. And then I'll be back down in October to take fighting pistol again. I talked my girlfriend into going to this one. So we're going to go down, take fighting pistol for the 2 days, take 2 days off and look at some property, look at some houses, and then I'm going to role play the fight for 2 days and then head home. So usually when I go down, I try to make it 6-7 days because the way my vacation time works out, I can take a couple days and get like 10 days off. So driving down for a day, shooting for a couple days, and then, you know, a day here and there to relax and then come back works out. So I usually try to go down and take at least 2 classes when I go down. And I try to make it 3 times a year. This year hasn't been that easy. So I think I've been down twice. Came down in March, and I'll be back down in October.
Yeah, unfortunately, life sometimes gets in the way when we're training. But we definitely know how that is. I saw on here, Max wanted to know, what classes are you teaching civilians these days?
So we do a CCW class, which is Michigan and Ohio's CPL class. We do a concealment class, which is, it's only 4 hours. We obviously don't have, because we're a smaller company, we don't get the attention that James does, so our classes aren't that big. So
Right.
We do have a schedule. We don't have a Facebook page. A lot of times we're word of mouth. We'll get church groups. We've done a lot of church groups that want to come out, groups of friends. We stay fairly busy, usually about 2 classes a month. He's gone with National Guard stuff. I obviously work a full-time job as well as he does. But we do a shotgun class, a rifle class, a pistol class, the fighting from concealment class, the CCW. We do a vehicle tactics class, which is a lot of fun because we spend about a third of the day doing ballistics. We run anything from a 22 up to a 50 BMG through different parts of cars. So we have a tow company down the road from us that drops off cars and vans and trucks when we need them. So we get to shoot through the windows, and, we talk about cover and concealment, stacking the pillars, the different ballistics through doors, different types of doors, through pillars, through engine blocks, through trunks. And then we actually get into shooting out of the vehicles and shooting through the vehicles. So that's nice. A lot of fun. We do CQB classes. We have a shoot house. It's not a ballistic shoot house. So we either run sims in the shoot house, or we'll take, we found what works really good is we'll take like the thick cardboard silhouettes, and we cut the center out and put balloons in the center, and then different colored balloons are friendlies or, bad guys. And then we'll run them through with airsoft rifles or the sim rounds. We found the airsoft rifles, they're the BB guns, work pretty well for shooting the balloons. They obviously don't function as well as a rifle, but when you're running CQB, it's more about the movements, the tactics, getting the team movements down, getting the footsteps down, pieing corners, looking long in a room, not over penetrating, that kind of stuff. We do a medium range target interdiction class, which is basically a mini sniper course. We run that every couple of years. I think we're going to do one this coming year, which is the friend that I teach with. He's a Green Beret sniper qualified. That's what I was looking for. And then we brought up 2 other guys from one of his teams that are sniper qualified. We go out to about 500 yards. So we do a target identification core part of it, a range estimation part, moving targets, stationary targets. We do 2 different stalks where we actually have the spotters, which are the Green Beret qualified snipers trying to find you in a section of woods where you're making a shot, you're identifying the target, you're making your follow-up shot, and you're making your way back to the green zone without getting seen. So that's super fun. A lot of guys get real cocky doing the shooting. They're like, man, I'm smoking targets. And then they get out there and they're like, how did that guy see the circle of my scope at 400 yards?
Yeah.
Or you get out there and you're trying to lay still and the mosquitoes are buzzing, and you're laying in a stinky puddle and there's spiders and stuff all over. Like it'll check your nerves pretty quick.
They end up looking like a giant tumor sticking off the side of a tree or something.
Oh, the old tree cancer?
Yeah, tree cancer. Yeah. So, sorry, guys, I'm back. My apparently internet stuff is fragile every once in a while, and my son got done reading and turned on a TV, and I think he kicked me off. But so you guys are jumping into all the training classes. This is on your let's see, the asset protection and recovery services side of things.
We don't have a site. Like I said, we're pretty much all word of mouth.
Gotcha. But that's the company that whole list of classes that you were just talking about.
Correct. And I believe I sent you that link. I'll post it under the video on my Facebook, and I'll post it in the link for you guys too, just for the people from Michigan that are watching.
Yeah.
We have an affiliate, his store and more,
Gotcha.
just north of Toledo. And if you go spend $150 with them, there's 4 different options for free classes with us.
Nice.
So we do obviously medical classes, which is a tactical emergency casualty care class. We don't do the TCCC because we obviously can't teach anything invasive, venous cut downs, chest tubes, IVs, things like that. But we do tourniquet application, obviously wound packing, chest seals. And we can do that in the classroom, or if we have a decent enough group, we'll do it outside where we actually do role players with simulated gunshot wounds, simulated explosions, simulated amputations, wounded people in a vehicle with a dummy drag. And then we have movie quality blood. So you'll bring an extra set of clothes, and it's amazing how somebody will apply a tourniquet in the classroom. And then when there's an actual live patient that's screaming and grabbing them and yelling, and I'm standing there squirting them with blood that's slippery and clotting and getting in the Velcro of the tourniquet and getting all over their arms, and it's splashing, and I'm like, is the tourniquet tight enough? Once it's tight enough, I'll slow the bleeding, and they're covered in blood, and they're like, holy crap. Like, that was completely different than putting a tourniquet on, a piece of PVC pipe wrapped in styrofoam,
That's awesome. That is fantabulous. That's awesome to hear. So guys, if you haven't figured it out, this group, what am I trying to say? Patrick says it all the time. This culture is highly supportive of each other, right? So we just kind of seem to be connecting the dots up and down the Eastern Seaboard for you guys. There's lots of training opportunities to be had. We got, obviously, you got anything from Michigan, North Carolina, Tennessee. We got Andrew down in Florida. James Yeager's, if you're on the eastern side of the country, James Yeager definitely goes up. He's got dates to be up there in Anvil, Pennsylvania. Usually we'll do a fighting pistol class up there, place for you to get started. And I believe they may do a fighting rifle class up there as well. So there's opportunities abound for you guys, but that's awesome stuff, man. And I got a good friend, Corey, that moved up to Michigan not too long ago. So I will certainly point him in that direction. So what's the actual kind of town that you guys are in? I'm sorry if you said this already.
Oh, it's Monroe County, Michigan. So it's the very southeast corner, right on the tip of Lake Erie. Okay.
Gotcha. So, southeast. Cool. So you're not too, like you said, you're just a hop, skip, and a jump out of Ohio, correct?
Yeah. My exit is exit 11 off 7. So we're about 11 miles.
Gotcha.
I mean, the county butts up right to Ohio, but my house is right in the middle of the county. So I'm about 11 miles from Ohio.
Nice. Awesome. And one of our other strong supporters, Scott Wexler, he finally showed up a couple of minutes ago, and he's one of your neighbors as well, correct?
Yeah, he just lives same county, just a couple towns over. So
gotcha. So that's awesome resource, and you guys you have each other.
Yeah, I'd tell you what, I'd love to get some of those guys if we can get that medium range class together next year. Go up north because we go, it's about 2 hours north of here. That way we can get the distance that we need.
Sure.
and the terrain that we need to shoot. So
Got it.
down here, to find property where you can shoot, high-powered rifles out to 500 yards and have an effective backstop and everything, we got to go a little bit north.
Oh yeah, we are exactly in the same spot. I mean, we're in the foothills of North Carolina, and so the problem is, cities are growing. Asheville is spreading, Charlotte's spreading, and it's hard to get far enough away from houses. You know what I mean? We don't have, and I know there's a lot of farm country up in Michigan, so perhaps that's kind of what you're talking about, is getting up into the farm country. And we
got a lot of farmland around here, but it's flat and it goes road to road, and there's houses on those roads.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we go up where it's 40 acres and we're surrounded by woods and no houses, and we still have a backstop.
Awesome.
So
nice.
We're lucky enough down here to have a range on 5 acres that's wooded. So we put a 3-sided backstop on that range. So we could do quite a bit of stuff on our 3-sided range. And then that's where the shoot house is located. And then we also have a section that has different types of vehicles. So we can do live fire from the vehicles down to the backstop of the range. So that makes it pretty convenient. You can't do that stuff at a gun club. So, I mean, we had to have our own range.
I hear you. So Wex says he's 1 mile from Ohio. So he's within about 10 miles, it sounds. So awesome. Well, some of the things that I have seen in the past, on different alumni groups and things, is I'm really interested in Kranz showing you guys some medical preparations and things like that he's I've seen him post before. So they seem well put together, well thought out, and highly organized. So we might kind of transition into that time if we can, Kranz. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Show us what you got, man.
So I run a SOE vehicle med bag. Like Max, it's super good quality. I'm a buy once, cry once kind of guy. I would rather spend a serious amount of money on a piece of gear that's going to last me forever than buy 3 bags at $30 a piece that are only going to last me a year at a time. So if I got to save up a little bit to get the good stuff, that's what I'm going to do. So on the outside, there is a strip of Velcro on the outside, and I found that the 3 rifle mag shingle works great for holding tourniquets. If I need a tourniquet, I know I need a tourniquet. I know I need it right now. So I want it exposed so that I can grab it and go. One of the other things too, I'm sure some of the guys are going to see it and comment about the time straps being closed over where the windlass goes. I've pulled this out of vehicles a few times and had these actually catch on things in the vehicle and pull the tourniquet out. I keep them closed for that reason, just because I don't want to get somewhere and then go, shit, 2 of my tourniquets fell out, because they got caught on something getting removed from the vehicle. And the way I feel about it is that if I'm handing a tourniquet to someone, let's say there's an MCI, car accident, motorcycle accident, whatsoever, I'm not going to hand someone a tourniquet that I don't believe knows how to use a tourniquet, or they don't say, I need a tourniquet, or I know how to use a tourniquet, or, I'm a nurse or whatever. Because as far as I'm concerned, if I hand someone that's untrained a tourniquet and they somehow figure it out, it's still my responsibility to go back and actually make sure it's applied the correct way. I can't just assume that they put it on the right way and then go back to someone after I've triaged and found that they've bled out. If I'm going to put it on, I'm going to take the few seconds, put it on, make sure it's done right, and move on. I know how to apply a tourniquet. If I give somebody a tourniquet, they're going to know how to apply it, and they'll realize that they need to, unvelcro the time strap and put it on there. That's just my opinion. You're more than welcome to do whatever you want. I do run 3 sets of shears on the outside. The reason being, if there is, this stays in the vehicle, if there is an MCI or something like that, a motorcycle crash, I've had people ask, why don't you put seatbelt cutters? They'll zip right up a pair of jeans. That's fine. Will they cut through a leather boot? Will they cut through a leather belt? Will they cut through a leather vest? Whatever else I need them to cut through. If a leather belt or chaps or a leather jacket or whatever else, winter coat here in Michigan is too thick, it's not going to run through a seatbelt cutter.
So John, a real quick question. You said you had an abbreviation, an acronym, MCI. Is that mass casualty
Correct.
incident? Okay.
So with shears, I can hand a bystander a pair of scissors and say, I need you to cut that guy's clothes off, and move on to somebody else if I have to, and hand somebody else a pair of scissors and say, I need you to cut that guy's clothes off. If I hand them a seatbelt cutter, they're going to look at me like I'm an idiot because they're not going to know how to use it. I built this bag to treat multiple people if need be. So that's why I have multiple shears. And then when we get inside, you'll see multiple wound packing gauze and things like that. Obviously, I run some chem lights and the chem light pouches.
Yours are only half as long as Max's were in that video we did with Patrick.
I had just seen some of those on, I think it was Recon's Facebook or whatever, and I was like, sweet mother, those. Like, what are you gonna do with those things? But
I think
nice.
I'm
getting some.
Yeah, Max. He kind of started out with it. I think he came to the conclusion they were a little bit large. But we have
they'd be great to throw in the trunk, like if you don't have access to quality road flares, or maybe setting up an LZ.
Yeah,
if you had to set up an LZ, I think those would be great because most helicopter pilots, especially like light flight pilots, they're running knots.
Yeah,
and I think those things are going to be seen for miles.
Yeah,
to set knots.
Max had the Recon. They're the brake stick Maxes, so they were like, I don't know, 18 inches long. But
yeah, they're right.
Didn't mean to derail you, man. Rock on.
So I run a needle decompression needle on the outside and the back. I had an extra one, and then in the very back, I have multiple sets of chef seals. And then being in Michigan, I also run Mylar blankets. Obviously, Mylar blankets are for treating shock and keeping patients warm. And here in Michigan, we do have winter. So you get a vehicle accident, even a medical outside, somebody slips and falls, they could have a long-term exposure. So I keep the Mylar blankets in here because it definitely gets well below zero in Michigan. And if you have a hypothermic patient, especially someone that's in shock, you're going to lose them even faster because obviously if they have blood loss, they're going to have heat loss, X amount of heat loss, and they're going to go into cardiac arrest. And
you can, if you had to, you could use them as a litter, correct?
I don't know if those are rated for that.
Gotcha. We need to do a YouTube video on that. Like we need to find some different weight folks, drag them around and report back. That's an idea. I'm going to write that down. So
obviously run headlamps inside my bag. I do have some of the Petzls. Those are $30 a piece. These are like 5. These get bloody. I chuck them in, you can chuck them in the trash.
Yeah.
And obviously run lithium batteries inside of those so they don't leak and then they don't go dead when I'm not using them. And then another thing, if I hand one of these off to a bystander and I get busy and I don't get it back, it's no sweat. You know, I don't care. I do run 4 more needle decompressions on the inside, more chem lights for lighting, gloves, small wrap or wound packing gauze, and then I do run a large amount of H bandages and wound packing gauze. I found that packing wounds, you can take a giant piece of gauze, and once it's wet or soaked in blood, you can basically squeeze it and hide it inside of your fist, and you'll never see it. I distinctly remember a head-on motor vehicle accident that we had where it was a bilateral compound femur fracture. And I emptied the entire stock of gauze in the ambulance into 2 thighs. And I could have used more, just packing 2 femur fractures. So the more wound packing gauze I can get into a bag, the better. So I do run these
the combat gauze.
Yeah, so these are the, I'm not sure how to pronounce them, the Aes Modular Bandages. So these have the plastic cups on the inside, So when you use them for pressure dressing, you can actually put that cup over a wound and it'll apply more direct pressure. These also have wound packing gauze inside the absorbent pad. And then there's an occlusive dressing in there as well. So if I rip this open, I have an occlusive dressing that I can put over a wound. I do have wound packing gauze that I can pull out of the absorbent pad if I need to and pack a wound, and then put the occlusive dressing over it if I need to, and then pressure dress it with what's left is kind of like an Israeli bandage or an H bandage.
Ooh.
So
Awesome.
I like the fact that I can apply that direct pressure to the wound. There's a lot of times you have the elastic bandages or the gauze, it's hard to get direct pressure over that wound. So with that, the ability to pack it if it needs to be packed, and then get that cup that's included over that wound to really apply some more direct pressure onto that
Yeah.
wound.
If you get a chance, this will kind of post and become solid tomorrow afternoon, our live stream. If you get a chance, just comment. I go back and comment with that specific bandage or some of the stuff that's really important to you. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, copy that.
Just what's on there.
Then I run obviously the Recon Medical, their bandages, which is kind of like, an H bandage or an Israeli bandage. They're all about the same. When I buy my kits, I usually go online depending on the size of the kit. I'm a huge fan of the Recon Medical Stop the Bleed kits. I think everything in them is super good quality. And you can't beat the price. I don't want to say cheap, but that reasonable.
I think they recently added a chest seal. We've talked about this a few times, and they're right around $30.
Yeah,
so
you're not going to be able to go and piece that stuff out for that.
Add a decompression needle to it, and maybe an MPA. You're pretty good to go when it comes to trauma there.
Yeah.
So cool.
So I run 3 of those bandages up top. I also run some duct tape, obviously for depending on what I'm trying to secure. If I can't get the chest steel to stick and I got to wrap some duct tape around it, if I have to secure a pressure dressing a little better, who knows? If tourniquet's soaked in blood and I can't write on it, you can smack some duct tape on her forehead and write on, your time application on that. One thing I don't want to see, don't see a lot of med kits is a razor. Just like AED pads, if I'm trying to put a chest seal on someone that has a hairy chest, it's not going to stick, and it's not going to seal. So throwing a 5-cent Bic razor in there to get that area cleaned up so that I can actually get a solid chest seal to stick, well worth it. It takes up no space, and I would rather, have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So
yeah, man, that little tip is worth the price of admission.
And then obviously three more packs of wound packing gauze, the standard combat wound packing gauze, and then I also run lubricant for some MPAs or nasal airways. There's one thing that I haven't put in here yet that I need to put in here, and that's some oral airways. Being that this kit's built for trauma, you're not necessarily supposed to put an MPA or nasal airway in someone that has facial trauma because it can go places it's not supposed to go. So we'll just leave it at that. And then in that case, you would obviously want to insert an oral airway. But that being said, I don't have suction in this bag. So if I go to insert an oral airway and somebody gags and vomits, I have no way to prevent an aspiration other than, rolling them
Recovery position,
in the recovery position and then compromising possible C-spine and things like that. So
nice. Well, that's awesome, man. Got anything else in that bag of goodies?
I think that was it.
That's kind of it. Well, awesome. I think, like I said, all that information and tips. We got a couple of questions in the feed, and I'll get to them here in a second, guys.
I know Max had said he added some oral airways to his. It's pretty good. But that tip about the razor is super. That's something we hadn't thought of.
Yeah. And so be interesting, like one of the comments, so you made a big distinction between trauma shears and, things like rescue me's and things like that. as far as accessing wounds and cutting off clothing and stuff like that. And obviously you had sound reasoning. You're in a much colder climate with thicker clothes and things of that nature. So as far as like personal, like, are you what you're carrying on your body? Is it like basically duplicated from what we just saw, or do you go with smaller, more compact things like Rescue Me to give you that, I guess that smaller profile? Or
so I run pretty minimalistic on my body. I run the Katanica shorts most of the time. I love the pockets. They hold all my stuff, and I don't even know I have it on. So I run chest seals in one pocket.
there's John's EDC dump.
Quick clot combat gauze in the other pocket. I run a pocket knife, Surefire stiletto.
Yeah.
Key bar. What else we got here?
Getting to learn everything about John tonight, boys and girls.
Neo mag. I ran this Neo mag through every class that I've taken at Tactical Response.
Is that the one with the little clip on the side of it?
Yep, the magnetic.
Okay.
So I was a little skeptical running on Glock mags because they are plastic, but they do have a metal insert. I have no problems whatsoever with it coming loose. And they do make one now that has 2 magnets for Glock mags.
I don't usually ask people to do this. Could you insert that back in your pocket and stand up and let me see what that looks like? I know that's random.
Yeah.
Can you do that for me? Because I'm looking for, of course, it's black on black. But,
so you can get different colored clips.
Okay.
And different height clips.
Gotcha.
So, and here's the thing. Running black on black, or I run black on gray, or whatever color shorts I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that is.
Gotcha.
If someone knows what that is, chances are they're carrying 2, and they're not going to.
Gotcha.
I never had anyone question. I had one guy one time. He goes, "Oh, you got a Neo mag?" I was like,
"Yep."
"You must have one too." He goes, "Yep."
So one more quick response or request. Can you stand up and pull it out like you're going to do a mag change real quick?
Yeah. So I go to do the mag change, and I grab it, and it just.
Okay, you're out of the camera, but it came off the clip and everything pretty well.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I mean, I've never had it come out. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt to get in your pocket because of how tight the clip is.
Yeah.
And then I run a K-bar in an NSR holster, and then obviously Glock in an NSR holster, but I won't pull that out on the live stream. And then I run a Rat's tourniquet.
I don't know. We talked about the other night trying to blow up Zoom and the YouTube. So
and then I run a Rat.
About 19 and NSR holster looks like.
Then I run a Rat's around my waist, which I stole that idea from John Lovell. And I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. So I run that around my waist, and I never have it come loose. So it's always there. And
yeah, we have a very petite I'll say alumna because it's a female. I don't know if that's proper or not, but she runs it like right underneath of her brow line. Just leaves the loop right here where she can pull from the center of her chest down. She's, like I said, she's pretty small. So similar concept. That's awesome. Cool, man. I'm learning as much as everybody else. So nice. Let me address some of the questions that we had here. Kind of skipping back to the training stuff. Andrew, our buddy from Combat Art Training down in Florida, he wanted to know what were your most popular classes, I believe. I want to address that question because I know he's a growing business and trying to, I'm sure the more he can learn from anybody that might be a few steps ahead of him would be awesome.
So last year, it's weird. It's kind of like James says, it's seasonal and like it depends on what's going on, right? So last year, we literally could not have enough CPL classes or CCW classes.
Yeah.
I mean, they were packed to the gills every single weekend, and it was nuts. This year, we cannot fill them up this year. And we're NRA. We teach under the NRA, and we were just contacted by the USCCA because they wanted us to switch over to them for our CPL classes. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. We think your curriculum's better and stuff like that. And we're completely on board with USCCA. And we said, but we're having a hard time filling classes. And he said, listen, he goes, everybody is. He said, it's not just you guys. He goes, no one's filling classes. I know some guys that were teaching them that just quit teaching them. They said, because you got to have X amount of students, right, to cover your expenses and make a little bit of money. You spend, 8-10 hours out there. You don't necessarily want to do it for free.
Yeah.
So
we're on a struggle bus a little bit this year. I mentioned in a previous live stream, and so maybe it's not just us. Maybe it's a societal thing right now. Not enough civil unrest going on or something. I don't know what it. I guess there was just that kind of perfect storm of last year civil unrest and people being cooped up, and you had election year and all that stuff. People were trying to get stuff in while they thought they still could and things like that. So gotcha. So
and then we do usually when we run a vehicle class, we have a good turnout for that. That's a lot. I mean, that's a fun class, right? When you get to shoot through windshields and shoot through car doors, and you and your buddy get in the front seat and you're bailing out, shooting and moving and talking and all that kind of stuff. So that's usually a pretty good class. Medical class usually gets a pretty good turnout. We do a few classes a year for churches, where church security groups are like, hey, come check out the church. What's our strong points? What's our weaknesses? And then we'll get them to come out. And a lot of times we'll do a CPL class for a church security group, or fighting from concealment for a church security group, medical, things like that. And then if we get a group of people that come together, because a lot of our classes are groups that'll come to us and say, hey, like this is what we want to do. We think, like, what do you guys think? What can you put together? And we'll do, a couple hours of pistol, a couple hours of rifle, a couple hours of medical, a little bit of CQB. And the CQB portion that's small it's basically how to get from point A to point B, right?
Yeah.
So if your bedroom's down that end of the hall and your kid sleeps at that end of the hall and somebody kicks in the front door, how do you get from here to there? It's nothing crazy where it's like, all right, we're going to put all 10 of you in a team and have you completely sweep this house. It's the basics of looking into mirrors and pieing corners, and don't be afraid to, if you've identified, this is a hard part we get with people, where if you've identified that target and that target's a threat and that target ducks behind the lazy boy, shoot through the freaking lazy boy.
Yep.
Oh, if you're like, my family's secure, that dude with a gun just jumped behind my chair, screw the chair, shoot through the chair.
Yeah.
And we find that with our vehicle class as well, where, we'll put targets inside of vehicles and we'll poke, just this much of the target out. We're like, make a shot on that target. Yeah. And people sit there and try to hit that little bit. I'm like, we just did 4 hours of ballistics. Like, you can shoot through the door.
Yeah.
And then you shoot through the door and they're like, oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah. Couple of things have come to mind. I know I've heard Patrick talk several times in different classes and maybe even on live stream, is that, a lot of times when it comes to criminals, there's that power aspect. They want to see, and I know you're talking about the other way around, but criminals want to, see their victim. And so like you could have like a shootout in a grocery store, and we all know we could shoot right through two bags of chips, you know what I mean? And shoot the other dude, but a lot of times they don't, because they can't see, I guess there's an aspect of not seeing, but they also, they want to see their victim as well. So it's interesting that you've kind of reverse psychology on the home intrusion side. So
yeah, I like one of the things that always kind of stuck out to me. Jerry told us about it. He was taking a class and it was about the hostage shot, and they told him, they said, listen, you can keep your head behind the victim's, the bad guy will keep his head behind the victim's head. But if you ask him a question, he's going to stick his head out. So they went later on in the class, and Jerry was the bad guy behind the hostage. And the guy says, hey man, what do you want? And Jerry's like, I knew it and I couldn't stop it. And I peeked my head out to say, you know, this is what I want. And I caught myself. I'm like, oh my God, he's right. I just did it.
Yeah, human nature. But you know, unless we're getting out there and training stuff, you know, we don't learn those hacks. You know what I mean? So you know, it's just like that force on force training stuff. Going through the fight and doing a lot of those things. It's also that we are you know, grabbing repetitions. You know, our mind and our body has been there before, so we can make quicker decisions. So if you guys are new to us, which probably nobody on the feed is, you know, you really need to look up the topic of OODA loop. That's kind of what we're getting at is you know, training. Not only so we can't make a mistake, but so that our reaction time and everything is much quicker when we need it. So awesome. And then do you have anything else to add on that one? I mean to cut you off.
One of the things you were talking about with repetition, if you don't go out and you don't train, you don't do the force on force and have different experiences and stuff like that, it always comes up to, like, I've seen that before, where once you've done it or you've been put in that situation where you can stop and pause and you'll see something play out and you're like, you know what? I've seen that somewhere. I need to move. Or I've seen that before. I need to get out of here. And one of the things I noticed that was huge as a role player for the fight down there is you can sucker a good person in by basically kind of making them do something. So what I'm trying to get at is, you know, one of the scenarios, without getting into it too much, was they want to leave a restaurant, like something shady's going down, like something's not good. I think we should leave.
And you start to do
Go
this.
up and I'm like, listen, man, you can't
yeah.
leave. You have to pay your bill. And they're like, oh shit, I am a good person. I can't walk out on my tab. I have to sit back down and I have to pay this bill before I walk out. Otherwise, I'm a thief.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm going to talk on that one for just a second. After doing the fight and that whole deal, I was actually in a restaurant not too long ago, and it just wasn't setting right with me. And, you know, I'd met a buddy there for lunch, and I just said, let's go, and threw the money on the table, just left, walked out. So, you know, he said, don't you want to get your change? I said, they can keep it.
yep.
So, and cool. So our buddy Rev, he's checked in and everything. He did make a good point. He said, I know you guys know and do this. Just for future watchers, be sure to identify the target. He's talking about the shooting through the chair reference, right? So make sure you identify the target before shooting through the chair or wood door. And yes. You know,
where, like, if you have all your people and you've identified that threat, you know, hiding behind the end of the couch, and you're like, my kids and everything's over there, and a dude with a gun just went over there. But I 100% agree with him.
Yeah. So as I said, YouTube will be relatively forever until we get banned or something like that. So we're working on it, trying to bring high quality bannable content. So guys, we're gonna we actually made it an hour. It was very engaging hour to me, and so I'm not quite as Rico Suave as Patrick is talking and things to really make the hours go by fast. But we appreciate you guys watching. We'll give you another minute or two, just any kind of final questions, and we'll start wrapping things up. So I'm just kind of looking back through the feed, and Andrew from Combat Art Training said that Uncle Jerry did show them that they could use the emergency blanket, the Mylar blanket as a litter. So like I said, we need to do a video. I need some different body types and stuff like that. So just to kind of look at tensile strength would be interesting. Just a video of them, and then maybe different terrains and stuff, which most of them they're probably gonna tear so pretty quickly depending on your terrain. So hope you don't have to move far, right? So
one good question, John, that I think, and it may be that you want to add it to the comments too, is, for people, especially out of towners, out of staters, if they wanted to come up and take a class, what's the best way to find out your schedule?
I will post the link below the video once it goes on YouTube. So I can't remember it offhand, but it will it tracks to our affiliate of his store, and then it's on there.
Okay.
Or they can contact me. I'm not hiding. So if you just go on Facebook, it's just John Kranz, and then Messenger. They get a hold of me as well. So
cool. Awesome.
And then if you go if there's any alumni, you can go on the alumni page, and go to the map, and my number's on there too. So
nice. Well, Clave says, good stuff tonight. And old Gary Johnson showed up. He said, great job, guys. And Kranz, I guess. So, and then whoever How Tube is, he said, I'd go for a class once I get enough ammo stocked. It's out there. It's available. You just got to be willing to put those shekels out there. It's much more available than it was. So How Tube, don't delay. Don't make excuses. Like I mentioned before, we're connecting the dots up and down at least the eastern part of the country. A lot of good, high quality folks out there that you can seek training with. So, and we're all relatively supportive of each other. So, just in the last couple of live streams, I mean, we've had folks from Michigan to Florida. So, lots of opportunities, and get your family connected while we still can. Let's see, Clave. We'll answer this question, and then we'll go from there. I believe this is directed towards Kranz. He says, do you remove optics/red dots when you fly with rifles?
So I drive, so I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
I would, the two things that pop into my mind would be, what type of case do you have? Because obviously the people at the airport aren't going to be very gentle with your stuff. And then I'm not sure if the cargo cabin's pressurized or not. So I don't know how that would affect an optic, but yeah, I don't know. I don't fly with rifles. So anytime I went somewhere to train with a rifle, I drove there.
And, but probably, I mean, for as much as you trust it, shipping, I know folks have shipped their gear ahead of time too. That's an option. So
yeah,
I feel like it would, especially if it's somebody that you're meeting on our live stream. We do just about anything for anybody who's just coming to train for us. So just reach out, and wherever you want to go train, and see what they're willing to do for you. If you want to ship gear ahead of time, I'm sure they'd love to have you. So Clave says Pelican case. Oh, he's going to Thunder Ranch. I wonder if he's going to that Clint and Jaeger collaboration class. So
I would like to get out there and take their high angle class, or their
So
basics.
Speaking of Thunder Ranch, if you guys got $6.5 million, she's on the market.
We could probably get it.
I think we could pull all the money together. But she's on the market. It looks like Clint and his wife are adapting to times, and they will be mainly doing mobile classes. It looks like they're going to sell the farm, and they're going to travel around the country, and obviously he's got enough of a reputation. He can do that and stay busy for a while. So, but if you got a $6.5 million, somebody gets lucky, hits that lotto, Thunder Ranch could be yours, and that would be awesome. Just have to invite Uncle Matto every once in a while. So Clave says he can't ship it to Thunder Ranch. So maybe talk to, obviously it's not their first rodeo, Clave. I don't have the experience of flying with firearms. Like I said, I'm going to stay pretty close to home base, North Carolina, in today's times and things like that, or I'm going to drive. So at this point in time, so I don't want to deal with flying and masks and all that shit if I don't have to. So,
well, anytime I go somewhere, I just bring too much crap to fly.
Yeah,
so
it's a good point. You know what I mean? We're rolling usually rolling pretty deep, even if we just jumping over to Camden, 8-hour trip. So awesome. So Clay says he is going to that joint venture class. That is awesome, man. That should be a great experience. But we are going to shut it down. Our first attendee, Max, decided it's time to he's rolling out. So good night, Max.
Good night,
Good
Max.
night. Good night, everybody that's hung in with us. Good crowd tonight. And Gary Johnson says he was here the whole time. We just underestimated his sneakiness. So we will hang out with Kranz here for a couple minutes after the live stream. And again, we thank everybody for your attendance tonight. And as always, we'll remind you to carry smart, carry safe, be prepared. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.